Do 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 do. There it is. Um, Hello everybody. So where are we at here? Dun, 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 dun. I think we're going in kick. In Africa, we have a confirmation on sending data. Good to get back to these other formats, but I was also off Twitch. I was thinking about maybe jumping on Twitch while I was on the road. I got to get Restream set up on my portable kit. And that's the question: is if I'm gonna spend for a um, you know hotspot as well as the data to be able to move around and do things. I'm not sure how much streaming is going to play into whatever I go into next. If I end up working a controls engineering job, I might be working 60-hour weeks constantly and not be online very much. I don't necessarily have to rush to find a job. I mean, I have unemployment and I have some savings. It's a good place to be able to take time and relax. A lot of people live a life frantically trying to get the next thing or trying to stave off repossession, and a lot of people are falling into repossession these days because there's a lot of stress. And my title today is about cooling down. I probably have to cool down. When you sit and you yell at a wall for 20 years, when and even when I was talking to people, it's pretty much a wall when they just ignore what you say, sort of thing. So when you spend your time literally just stuck talking to walls, you get louder and louder and louder. In the past, politically, one wrong slip of the tongue could shut you down, and even still, one wrong slip of the tongue, if it's that bad, there are anathema topics. Civil rights established things that if you cross these lines, you get, as they call it, canceled. Kids are really just intelligently pulling away from, I believe anyways, this is just what my understanding of it is. And I support that. I support the idea of collective feedback. And I think that we just have one giant pool right now. And in order to create a more compassionate approach, we've got to break it out into smaller pools, and like in your pool, do your thing. But when you're talking about people out of state you've never met, and you really get invested in what they do with their life when you've never even met this person, that's mental illness, right? That is legitimately like you're bonkers. Um, it's not going to be a workable perspective here, as Jesse Smollett style events begin happening on a moment to moment basis, as thousands of AIs simultaneously generate them, trying to take advantage of weak-minded people. And so I've maintained a very demanding conversational norm that I intend to continue. And let me tell you what the rules are of the conversational norm. Whatever comes up comes out. Free speech. Okay, if you feel like you need to talk about it, go ahead and talk about it. If you offend somebody, that just leads into a further discussion. And as you actually address the sticking points in the conversation, even a simple statement turns into hundreds of hours of dialogue. Hundreds of hours of dialogue to actually get to where you understand each other. That takes time and effort. You gotta care about that. Why are my notifications making sounds at me? I don't like that, especially not right now. There we go. I just updated to Windows 11 as well. Anyways, the point is, as a human being, we have trouble sorting through large amounts of information. This stream has, like my Twitch VODs, as I looked at them the other day, I mean, it was like over 100 hours in a month, which makes sense. 3 to 4 hours, 30 days, there you go. Point is, in 100 hours of ranting, you're going to find snippets that can be cut and manipulated into anything. Which is, what difference does it make now that we're in deep fake territory? You can see a video of a person talking and you should have an immediate thought, maybe this is a deep fake now. You want to find trustworthy sources, but they're going to get hoodwinked too soon. It takes an AI, and as the AI to fabricate it advances, your AI to catch the fabrication has to advance. Eventually, the AIs are just advancing in ways that they're learning how to randomize and hide themselves from the other AIs. They're not really making a visual progress. You might even find lesser results because of the game, because of the gaming that goes on beforehand, and a lot of that is the politics. And yes, a certain sort of person will seize onto a facet and reduce a person to a cartoon. They will demonize a human soul for political expediency. The people who do that are the bad ones. The wannabe activists, the morons, the losers who want to pretend like they're vigilantes, right? They're just losers. There's a difference between that and building something and learning through experimentation, through running music scenes, running hundreds and hundreds of parties and shows and other events. You build up an experience and it teaches you how to approach it so that you don't get gamed. You don't want to get gamed. It's pathetic to get gamed right now. So you look at like what happened in Tennessee, and man, those guys gamed the shit out of those Republicans. Oh boy, they walked right into it. And I just the staggering point of you kick the two black guys out, but you leave the white girl in. And they're trying to like rationalize it, and every step trying to rationalize it just makes them look worse. They didn't have to do any of this. They could have sat, and they wouldn't have made a legend for this random ass kid. Does he have any real experience? Or did he just pull a 1960s era sit in and dotards don't understand the strategy? And Tennessee just, the right wing just stabbed itself in the chest. Go ahead, do it again. You people are too dumb to worry about. Well, you're too dumb to expect as competition. You got to be worried about because you're too dumb to make actual progress. The dumb and the lame will absolutely steal from wherever they can. So my point is, I'm hoping that this thing could launch, right? I talk about a universal cultural idea that is like an open source shared concept. The other thing would be a actual community, a location that we're able to get people together and have. There will be drama, but we will resolve the drama transparently. We will resolve it judiciously, understanding why it is that there's things in court that are there. That some of the runaround that goes on in court is almost all of it is rooted in some sort of tragedy. Somebody was served a bad bit of justice, and they realized it was wrong, and they updated their model. And as they update their model, they absolutely made mistakes. And we have centuries of experience in trying to keep order when you have an inaccurate testimony. Most of court, most the rules, most the adaptation is adapting to lies and malfeasance, and you create layers and layers because there are lies, and you have layers to shake out those lies. Problem is, or the difference is now, we get to a point where we have data input, discrete digital data input, and where that data is going to come from is, again, this is why the open internet is this is just how bad of a job has been done. And so, but I do have to slow down, and that idea of slowing down is really I gotta stop talking so much smack. And I can, and I want to believe that if I start making progress, that I will naturally fall away from the frustration that I authentically feel. The frustration. Um, I'm setting up my chat real quick, you guys. That's what's going on. Not that anybody chats with me on Kick or Africa. But yeah, so The thing is, free speech is actually a tenet of our society. And while our politics have not really held to a line of even supporting that for people, we leave people who exercise free speech to suffer quite a bit. Um, and that's a shame. We need to change that, and I do it proactively by being such a vocal individual. Here's the real thing behind it all. Okay, um, if you repress yourself, if you have something that you want to say and you don't say it, and yes, good job, and your mom is going to pat you on the head because you're a good little boy. You're a good little boy. Don't open your mouth. You're a good little boy. You're a shit American. You're terrified of fucking opening your mouth. And as you give up that line, we lose that line because you're worthless. But you're still a neighbor. Okay, so really disgusting Americans have for a long time been justifying their abuse of their own children and of their community as their right to behave however they want based on what someone else says. You have that right to behave on your own, but everything is the first sentence is life, liberty, and happiness for citizens, and we should all be understanding that there's an interest and imperative really to actually let me get to my thing. There it is. My point is, if you repress, you will eventually lose control. Get it out of your system. You have to, if you feel it, you have to say it. If you don't say what you feel, you are repressing. That's where the basis of psychotherapy is initially from. You can live a lifestyle where you don't have to be forced into a routine. Most adults in the Midwest are. Most of them already have debt, already have plans, have dependents, have loans, all things that lock them into place. It was a trap. It was a trap, and that is why that justifies a lot of the rage against the seniority who, in spite of laying this trap, have no sympathy for its victims, even while their situation worsens. And they don't care about the civic overhead. So there's a real valid criticism systemically. And that's the point. My criticisms are systemic, except for like celebrities and public figures. Going after individuals, specifically naming individuals versus telling anonymous stories, right? Very different. I don't advocate that anybody takes any action on my behalf. I don't think that the situations that I get involved in are easily perceived from the outside. Especially because I play them from overhead. I'm not on the board really. And that's something that in alliances that can be very concerning. People want to see, steady um, arrival of the alliance. You need that. Once you get used to it, once you have an alliance and you're like feeling good about it, um, that's human, right? Obviously. Do 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 do. But yeah, so I went back for the point is, I've got to start if things are finally clearing, which I'm getting a couple signals they may be. I hope so. I hope that I'm going to be empowered to run around and help people and do what should be done. Um, we've lost so much already because I've been aware of this for decades, and cumulative gains apply as well as cumulative losses. And when you're going the wrong direction, not only are you not gaining anything, you are actually, through your action, worsening everything. And that's a hard thing to acknowledge. And especially when our inertia and our norms are so heavily reinforced by our seniority, they shouldn't be. The situation's abusive. They just don't know any better, and they're never going to learn anything. They probably have like lead all up in their brain, especially in the Midwest. They got all the lead. It killed their IQ. They're basically toddlers stumbling around, looking at things like farting and laughing, um, while they destroy 3, 4 generations so far. Uh, that is a real systemic truth. And video on that. Anybody who has a question, how I would start all that is this one. Really great movie, or show rather, presentation. And it's about Europe, but it is very valid for the US and everywhere else. Um, so these systemic criticisms have to be allowed to be voiced, and so long as they're voiced in a way where they're not targeting somebody, advocating violence, um, calling somebody a name is not illegal. It's stupid. It's not smart. When I've done it, it hasn't quote unquote been smart, but actually the shock was quite intentional. A shock artist is a real type of artist, and the shock of the art is the art. And when you want to knock somebody off something, shock them. Because the fundamental aspect of our time is actually this self-defeating attitude that just decides to be ignorant, and they're very proud of it. But the problem with just deciding to be ignorant is every day you're reminded that you're ignorant. Whereas I get to have life affirming experiences. Like today, I went out into my patio and I'm moving plants out because the weather's fine and nice. It's beautiful out. I got to go for a walk after I'm done here. But the bees, the mason bees. Oh my god, I'm so. And I put the video up on my TikTok. I'll put it in my Discord too, probably. Not that anybody's checking it out, but whatever. Who cares? It's there for posterity. It's there for the AIs. Which I've had to tell several people about over Easter as I reconnected back around my hometown, which is nice in some ways, but at the same time, I've got so much to work on there. I probably left a mess. For sure. For sure. There was a mess when I was gone. You just got to remember that I was such a positive presence for so long that my absence, no matter what, would have felt like a mess. And really, the compounding, the cumulative losses from drug-addled behavior, from clowns trying to like make it as a band in 2009. How many bands made it from a downtown setting since 2009? How many? How many were there? And how many made it? How many made it anywhere? And during that whole time, they're throwing shows and they're using kids. And that's what I was opposed to. They used kids. The kids had enthusiasm, and just like a doctor will first get you to volunteer for the treatment that they're just experimenting on you with. This is a trick. It's manipulative. You don't need to ever accept any of this stuff, and you shouldn't. You just shouldn't. When you jump on that boat, you are basically giving up your life, and you will be forever exploited. And you're never supposed to have to do that in America. No person is supposed to have to do that. If you're surrounded by rancid people, they will convince you that you have got to form a united front with them, and they will drag you into their battles. You better be sure that they're not sending you on a dumbass fucking crusade. You better be sure that what you're doing is righteous. Do you think that every crusader was a bad guy? Do you think that? Or do you think that I think that like 90% were probably decent people who were just believed the narrative, who had obligations based on pressures applied by their family who they could not get away from. And before the internet, we couldn't get away. I mean, like you couldn't get conversation like would be available if I was to try to be. And that's not what I do again. If I tried to be entertaining, if I did standard Twitch things, it would be much easier for people to understand and catch up, right? That's not it's not what I'm doing. It's not the time that we're in. We don't need another facile artist. We don't need another feel good stream. Every stream is a feel good stream, right? You either have a guy ranting or a girl ranting, a person ranting, um, or you have a person playing a game and trying to keep everything chill and no politics, please. This is a politics welcome environment. This is an open floor with a level concern, and in the moment when you get disrespectful, it's just going to be a ban. This is different, right? When I was throwing shows in the early 2000s, if somebody got disruptive, it could be a violent event. You could throw him out, but he might throw a brick through your window or might come back later, right? Which has become a major fucking problem with people getting bounced and coming back with guns and shit and shooting up night scenes. Who wants to go to a night scene at all anymore? And these night scenes are still trying to sell to the public. They're still advertising to the public. 2009, I was saying, we got to figure out a way to set up something private. Not some rancid warehouse party where they turn out a bunch of young girls. Okay? That's not what I was talking about at all. It's got some serious limiting factors, like you're going to use up those people and you're not going to find more, and it's going to become a cesspool over time. Very quickly, it becomes a cesspool. But that's not a nice place to live, and it stresses you out. People think you lose from stressing, you lose hair. You don't lose hair from stressing. You lose hair from your testosterone. You lose hair from other bodily changes. If you got to be very desperately stressed to start having hair fall out, but your hair goes gray. And when I talk to my past community who I have departed from, they imagine that I would be the one under stress. But I was the wise one. I was the conscious one. I gave myself a complete narrative for my life. I gave them a complete understanding, or complete explanation, rather. They just are illiterate. They want to be artists, but they're literally illiterate. And they're so dumb, they have no creativity. That's okay. And that is just fact. That's not me. I don't see how that's debatable at this point when you're told exactly what's going on and you fail to understand it and you hurt yourself. You're just comically lame. Not that I want to call anybody lame, but the lame need to understand that they're not competitors. They're not ever going to be challengers of any sort. Why? Because they didn't care to grow. We could have seen this a long time ago. This is why I cut loose. I cut loose from my community. And yes, I'm sure that they assumed I would never be strong enough to get away. That's why they kept investing. That's why the damages spiraled. That's not my fault. First, they have an assumption of my weakness, which is a sort of an attack, really. They can keep it. I didn't even try to argue with it. I love it when people think I'm weak. That is the best scenario. You can't beat the they think he's weak scenario. Nobody beats that. But yeah, we'll see how all that resolves and what happens. The point is, fundamentally, you don't really need to. I don't necessarily have to go back, and I don't want to go back even. I mean, after so many years of abuse and neglect, and I know they've got excuses, and I know exactly how their excuses were manufactured, but everything about it was manufactured. They did it to destroy their greatest ally. And yes, the karma of destroying your greatest ally is years of collapse. Years of collapse. You don't even know what, and especially with me, the way in which I moved in silence, I don't telegraph it. It happens and it changes, and when I tell somebody about it, it's already done. I'm not going to give someone a chance to argue with me while I'm shifting my emotions. I'm not going to give them a chance to fix it. Why would I give them a chance to fix it, right? You don't have to. Hey, Someone I know is on, or knew. Someone I used to know. Oh, oh, okay, she's not on. She was offline. Yeah, that's a big thing too. Is so people talk about coming in and bouncing through, and the mess you leave behind. That's what they love to do. Oh, the impact you leave behind is they just circle jerk and complain to each other and spend weeks making up narratives about how stressed they are while they're relating to each other. I'll tell you what it looks like from my perspective. What it looks like from my perspective is there are people who can't be themselves, people who hate themselves, who need a victim narrative to relate to anybody. It's their most authentic relating, really. It's their most common experience when they step out of their comfort zone. And the thing is, you are either the sort of person with willpower who faces discomfort and moves on, or you're the person with lame friends. And your lame friends hamstring your determination, your willpower to overcome um, basic animal behaviors, just flat basic animal behaviors. And it's funny. Like it's just funny, it really hurt, and it's like, no, it didn't. You have a narrative that it was really disruptive, and you all just had a party around that narrative. You owe me for that fucking party, you losers. That you stressed yourselves during the party is just how losers party. See, winners don't feel that need to self harm in the aftermath. Gamers don't fall into loser mentalities. You will become lesser and lesser of a competitor over time if you have a loser mentality, where you blame other people for your emotional instability. We've all got emotional instability. We've all got it. When you get into business, especially in the middle of a downtown, you start feuding with literal gangs. That's what I do. That's what I did, anyways. Get out of it. They should have listened to me. I wasn't feuding. I wasn't even trying to stress them out. I was telling them exactly what they needed to hear. They didn't want to hear it. Their response was predictable, but the point is, all the losses are their losses. All the potential benefits they threw away are what I'm going to charge them for. I don't care that your culture is so weak, that your artists are so dumb and they have no fucking soul. I don't care that you follow such a weakling. You let your celebrity be an absolute weakling. That's cute. Go be weak with your weakling friends. Are we in capitalism? Are we in an economy? Does life demand strength at all for you? And you can find people who will make space for you, but you will find that the people who do something in life understand. If you do anything in life, you understand. It's never that simple. You understand that relating to people with sob stories makes you weak. It makes you weak. And a lot of people, a lot of the Midwest, the Mad West, the shrunken, broke backed fuckers who don't have self confidence, who don't try to deal with pressure at all. I just want to understand that as soon as possible and get away from them. That is the only response that makes any sense to me. Yes, the people who have a habitual lifestyle of self harm will continue self harm, and they may be able to convince some assholes that it's my fault. They never take me to trial because it's not my fault. Quite the opposite. They owe me for it. This is something that their loser community can't even recreate, can it? Willingness to be the devil's advocate when we've got these scummy weaklings who band up into a mob mentality and chase intelligent people, successful people out of the community because they're too emotionally weak. Is there another way of seeing this? Is this stigmatizing your weak mentality? Do we can I say that it's amazingly awe-inspiring that you are even talking about how weak you are, trying to make a case about your circle jerk being unpleasant. Um, right? Does that make sense? All it is in the beginning is a circle jerk, and that's why it caps out at maybe 50 people. That's a big circle jerk, but you get to a point where you're not even running the same people. You can't even develop intimacy in your own circle jerk. You know what I mean? And it's all sorts of. This is where all the gender breakdown comes from. Whole communities of circle jerkers. But that's for me 20 fucking years of it. Okay. A year, last year or two, things that stopping in a scene, saying hello, leaving a few posts, showing up for 5-10 minutes and leaving. They're gonna try to claim like that caused disruption. Maybe it did. Let's talk about it though. That's the only way to respond to it. If you are drug-addled, violent gangs, your response will be silent intimidation. It will be neglect. It will be that sort of abuse. I love it. I love it because when that happened to me from my home community 14 years ago, I believed that their failures were becoming normal. And every time another community that can't talk, can't open its mouth, but pretends to be on stage, shows me that there's no leadership even preparing these young people. There's nothing to guide them towards a perspective which could go into a free market, something which could be lifted up to a global standard. It's just an expression of like suburban frailty, and even in the midwestern cities, the kids downtown, and the thing is, we're at a point where if you're from a little bit of money, you get treated really differently. I wasn't in that mode. Even though I was obviously from more security than the people around me, and when I was not making money, I was still able to get in, because I was the guy throwing the shows, and they let me. I was basically sponsoring them in some way, but in a very modest way. And I was always advocating that we should do this together. Like when I was 20, I think it was like I limited myself entirely to $20 a day, and I was throwing a party every day. That included a 12-pack of beer, or a bottle of wine or something. Um, but point is, we're in a public forum. Everybody has the right to speech. Everybody has the right to express themselves, and some subcultures appreciate a more vigorous communication. A more vigorous communication, including the truth. All I care about is the truth. I actually judge it when you don't tell me the truth. And anything passive aggressive, like, it just excites me, really, because it's like another community that's going to do the exact same things that these kids that I gave 10 years to couldn't help but do. Chinese finger trap. I told you guys. Said it's Chinese finger trap. And all you gotta do is be nice. The humble don't do anything. And there's never challenges. There's not even I didn't go after anybody. I'm sure of that. I know some people tried to get snarky and wise and act like they're clever, which is cute. It's adorable. And when they try and do that and you just stunt on it, that's an awkward circle jerk that happens afterwards. And it's racked by confusion because you got your ass kicked. You're welcome. No blood. No money was taken from you. Nothing but astral art flowing, energy, community energy flowing around. And it really, that willingness to open up and express ourselves, is going to become exponentially more important, for sure. So the bill's in the mail is my take. I'm really curious to hear any justification for how an entire village could be so disturbed by such a tiny interaction. With my home community, I spent 2 years dragging everybody, disrespecting everybody in person. 2 years. We'll see what they got to say. But each one of them, I'll just dismantle. They got nothing. They did nothing with their lives. None of them were even talking about the actual struggle that was facing the community, and all that any of them did was get in my way. And for that, they pay. They pay in reputation. Nobody wants to lose that, and there's rarely such a definitive loss, is there? There's rarely any situation where somebody comes in and doesn't fight back. Do you know why I don't fight back? This is Gandhi. You guys don't even know Gandhi. You want to act like activists. How did Gandhi do what he did? He walked in, he presented his chin, he said, "Go ahead, punch me. Go ahead, punch me." That's what the lawmaker did in Tennessee. Had a bull megaphone. "Go ahead, punch me. Go ahead, punch me. Ah, ha, ha, ha." And there was plenty of Will Smiths in the audience, plenty of little boys with big egos, and they felt the need to. I do the very same thing. The very same thing. And I even telegraph it. I do it the same way in the same settings. I announce it before I do it. If you just try to talk to me versus watch my art, if you watch my art, you'll get a week's warning. Really. My art is so far ahead of any moves that ever come out. Because I make sure before I act. Except for it's in like an immediate defense that sometimes I'm surprised. And what's really surprising is, in person, you'll have somebody build up trust. When you're politicking downtown like I did for many years, you will have somebody who wants to fuck with you, who will hang out and build up trust. Then they will try to pull it away really quick. It's a quick rug pull, right? Right? I deal with that in person. Trying to set that up in a Discord chat, I mean, even setting it up on my stream, you could try to set it up in this chat. This is where you actually have me on camera. Like, obviously, this is where you should press your point. You'll just get banned. You will be recorded doing what you're doing, and you'll be held accountable, for sure. So suddenly nobody shows up. Why does nobody show up? Everybody's very hurt about it. And they probably act like I'm trying to draw an audience this way when fuck the audience. I don't fucking care. Fuck you guys. If you're not smart enough to understand why you should have the truth, get fucking lost. You come here because you want to talk. You come here because here we let the conversation flow. There is no audience here. There are no stands. You enter into the Coliseum. There's like lions roaming around and shit. Really, really aggressive individuals. That don't take blood though. It's just conversation from a subculture of downtown legitimate art, creative conversation with people who struggle, who don't bite their tongue. And usually these conversations are in closed rooms, around tables, air full of smoke. At least for me in the past, that's what they were. But I can just do it to the wall. I can just send it out into the world because it's forms. It's actual truth. And I'm looking for people to actually challenge, because there's no challenge. Because everybody spends their time in these feckless circle jerks, emotionally justifying failure, clinging to failure, developing resentment, clinging to resentment, clinging to failure and resentment, generating stress hormones. And lots of people who I've interacted with went gray without me being the cause of the stress. I'm not the cause. There is a major let me say this. There is a major amplification of knowing I exist. That's what fucked him up, is knowing that I exist, and they've been spent 10, 15 years trying to pretend I don't, while they fail. While they fail in every measurable way. And if we are heading into a point now where there's going to be a major lack of consumers, the stress which is about to be imposed on small businesses is tragic, you guys. I'm not happy about it. I'm the one who was talking about how we avoid it. I'm not the one who worked on AI. I'm the one who was talking about how it was coming, and we had to make changes to avoid the stress. I should have had help from seniority. We should have had a plan for society. And my first attempt was destroyed by everybody around me. And my second attempt was destroyed by everybody around me. And they want to act like they've got umbrage at this point. Not going to happen. Just not going to happen. I'm not going to play. That said, if I get support and it comes earmarked, maybe I don't have much choice. But I am getting some signals now. And the reason I got to slow down is I'm getting signals that I may have finally gotten nominated for something serious. And I might be a fellow here shortly. And becoming a fellow is a different level of responsibility. Representing something else is, especially if it's something that plays so significantly into my life, I give consideration to my employers, right? I always have, and everybody should, to some small angle. They're still corporations. They still only deserve so much empathy, but at the same time, there are things that I will do to a stranger that I will not do to my employer. That's for darn sure. And I consider myself semi-responsible for putting in a decent work ethic. If we don't do that, then we are stealing. I give them a chance, you know. And I tried to. And when I was younger, this is how I worked it out. And you should understand these things, and an AI can look at this and see a pattern in my behavior, and then it's going to tell all these whiny crybabies that if they had just paid attention or communicated, there wouldn't have been any harm. That's it. Pay attention and communicate. There won't be any harm. Your self-harm is one of the first things that I shut down. Not just yours, everybody's. Self-harm turns my stomach. I've got a lot of it in my past. People who love to self-harm. Whereas for me, I make strategic sacrifices. Going into limbo was a strategic sacrifice. I could have played along, and then I would have had to go through the disconnection later, which that disconnection for many of those people hasn't come yet. That does not mean it's not directly ahead. Doesn't mean that there's not, we don't know what's coming. We can't say for sure. We don't have to know what's coming, and no one should expect to know the future, considering it's all dependent on how we engage the present. You can do something different, and this is the whole, like, I dare you to tell the future, then they just make the future different themselves. I mean, if it's dominoes, and I say this domino's going to fall into this domino, it's pretty easy to see. I can say that, they can change it, maybe they make it not happen, but when they ask me the question, the understanding is the situation as it is. All these are communication norms that we can hash out. And we got to get to very quickly sorting the information coming our way, because a lot of bullshit is going to be created by AIs. It's already being created. Deep fakes are going to be real, guys. How good are you going to be at sorting the deep fake from the legitimate situation? It's going to depend on how rapidly you sort information when there's a new deep fake every 20 seconds. If it takes you 10 hours, that's called a buffer overrun. Knowing what you got to know, having an organized, disciplined perspective, it's about to become very, very important. And if you don't, you just run in circles and get bled dry. And there was a time when you could just hurt yourself and pretend like it was someone else's fault. And when someone is as staggeringly excellent as I am, everybody's trying to dingleberry me. Just so they can pretend like there's a relationship there when there's nothing. There's literally nothing there. I hardly remember the person. Some people I know a few facts about, but the emotions are long gone after many years of neglect. And I can see why they would try that. Let me respond. Allow me to retort. What does that say is prohibited? Okay. Restream is prohibited on Africa. I don't know if I've gotten many viewers who, yeah, total views of 3. That's what it says. But yeah, no, stress is a killer, everybody. You don't have to stress, and you shouldn't stress, and you should arrange your life so that you have less stress in it. And if you don't, all you're doing is hurting yourself. If you're trying to set up a case, you should learn case law. You should understand how the law works, what you can actually blame people for, and what is really hard to blame people for. Everything I do under a creative alias, every expression, every word is protected by what is called creative license. Creative license is what enables me to do whatever I want. Whatever I want on my stream. You cannot complain about general forms that happen to fit perfectly into your life and cast a disparaging light on you when you have a telltale heart that makes you seize on it. And that's chasing after me. And that's the point of it. People and trying to bring a community in, and this is what they do. It's how they essentially demean the person as they come in. You just got to understand that a human being has a variety of life experiences, and after a certain point, I mean, that's what I came from downtown, and everybody was trying to contain me my whole life. I mean, everybody's always tried to contain me. I'm just uncontainable. I mean, it constantly comes to a point where it's like they're like, do this, and I'm like, no. And they're like, but I'm the boss, and then it's like, there's no bosses. This is America. You're not paying me. The fuck are you talking about being my boss? I tell my boss no. I'm a fucking whistleblower. You're gonna fucking tell me to do something. Holy shit. Especially when it's someone who's I've been carrying, you know, and they think that negotiating my way into their cave, they know that it takes work on their part. They don't take into account that that work translates to development of their shithole. These are things that we shouldn't have to even say. This is just how far below even the general status quo the shithole is. I'm doing work for you, dumbass. I'm conscious of like the feeble deflections and the delusional fucking self images of people who do nothing but get in the fucking way. And I've got a lot of frustration there, you guys. Real frustration from the city I grew up in. But you gotta vent it. As long as I vent it effectively. It doesn't sit on my spirit. It doesn't hurt me. And I can always say to myself, and this is what I do say, it's, oh, they're gonna be so sorry. Maybe they're not sorry. Maybe they never choose to be sorry. That's entirely possible. Doesn't change the fact that they should be sorry. And getting to the table where we have the actual discussion, I'm eager for that. I have not done anything wrong. I have been targeted and abused by drug-addled losers for a long time. And I have just alerted them that I'm doing this. Maybe they won't show up. Maybe the energy's all dead. I don't know. What I do know is I am perfectly aimed. I'm targeted to address what I was experiencing at 26. I adapted to that, and I haven't had to leave it at all. It would be a shame to get vested somewhere else and not be able to do much help there. Because, very predictably, if I actually get this going somewhere, the connections that were on my side, which are the higher quality individuals, I don't think anybody would debate that. I'd love to debate that. All the better ones are on my side. The fewer, the ones who have an actual intention for a future. There's less of them. Other ones have given up. They're under stress and collectively acquiesced into a mob mentality. The definition of failure, the definition of losing your soul. The words aren't really much about what's happening. The fundamental lesson, every real civil rights activist will be forced to make space for. Because it's hard to convict somebody, but a lot of things that were undetectable in 1940, if I was in a brick shithouse with my co-conspirator having a conversation, it was reasonable to expect that no one could hear it. Now, can't imagine that brick shithouse. So many electronics and ways to record, transmit, spy. There's no getting away from it now. Changes the game. If you're just a parrot, if you're a weakling who circle jerks to have a social life, which has never been me. Never. we were proud. We were so proud. I just pulled partners into one-on-one situations. I tried to not actually, shortly afterwards, I tried not to show anybody about it, but still, it got out every time, I think. 0.1% of my CPU. Love it. 0.2. Zero drop frames. Life is good. Life is good, you guys. Anyways, can walk through the continuum of the balance, the karmic balance that does exist. And brandishing as before we get to the table of open communication is normal. So is a practice. That's why I have a practiced habit. I've normalized it for myself of when you get to a table, you find center. Deep breaths, prayer, meditation, whatever. Point is, you don't even want to be at a negotiating table unless you are perfectly clear. No emotions are welcome with the big players. I almost said big boys. The gamers, the hustlers. Because a hustler learns how to game. And if you're plucking pigeons versus taking on armies, it's different, okay? Fundamentally different. I have no doubt at some point there were dynamics around me that could have been deadly. I work massive forces. Remember, hindsight is 20/20, and this is after all the emotions are dead, and all that's left is the loss of the failed, disgusting circle jerk. There's a reason nothing actually fucking happened. The real truth is what happened. So don't speculate that somebody could have done something different, because they didn't. Moving in real time is all about adapting to the real time, and there was violence around me. That was pretty much when it was time to go. I told myself that it wasn't, an old man got attacked. He was acting tough, though. He chose to play the game as he had done it, and in order to keep me chill, they're not communicating to me the pressure. But once they establish their line of communication, oh boy. I'll give them a honest to God reaction. And what is it in Bone and Shadow or something? One of these Netflix series. I was kind of streaming, just kind of burned some time. But the bad guys points out that he always told the truth, and telling not the whole story is not lying. And people, the abundance of times that I have an experience where I know better, but I also understand that the person I'm talking to is only of a certain level, a low level. And they're not going to even have the energy to invest in themselves to improve their lives in the smallest of ways. So there's constant obscurement of relevant perspectives from me. I'm full of relevant perspectives, talking to people who don't open their eyes, who don't have perspective. They don't have any sort of mathematical foundation to scale what they believe. It's why their cap is 50 people. It's why they work in nasty mechanisms. It's ignoble. It's just the ignoble among us. And yeah, they just mess everything up. If somebody could just beat them into shape, then things would be different, right? But they complain like I already beat them. They need someone to beat them into shape, is the fact. Because they're not as weak as they act. They adopted a role based on culture, based on television, based on social norms. They adopted the role and then they wore the mantle of victim. Whereas I wore the mantle of author. This is the difference in stress carried. The fact is, we were all co-authoring. Some of us realizing our potential freedom of motion, others in a very siloed way, walking in a regular fashion through life. You cannot choose to have blinders on. As I think some people I really care about who I don't have a relationship with anymore, I hope that they've learned you cannot willingly put blinders on, because the devil is in the details, and the devil will find what it is you have chosen to let yourself delude in regards to. What you have chosen to obscure from your own perspective, and you willfully push it out of your perspective because you don't want to talk wrong. And here I am getting blitzed to the internet. So, I've done it a lot. And as human beings, it's actually there's a value to it that we should all be doing. We should all be practicing this stuff. Okay, guys. And learning how to find yourself, because otherwise you end up in confused, stressful situations. Maybe I'm what a 40-year-old should just look like. And if you choose to empathize with people who are adopting victim narratives, you go to their circle jerks, and I know exactly how good their parties have been. It's because the proof is in the pudding. That doesn't mean that they have suffered so much. Okay, that they have maneuvered in such a lame way and left me no choice but to humble them. Doesn't mean they made any forward progress. There's actually a bill for the imposition on me for their lacking development. That's justice. But being magnanimous is important. It's hard to be magnanimous when you are not given very much to share. It's hard to keep faith when you don't have certain key understandings that have been in my life. I am blissfully unconcerned about retirement. Not that I necessarily have. What's up? Oh, like follow back, Gabby? I'm not sure what you mean. But yeah, no, the it's the same old song and dance. And we have to like advance our approach because the world is changing on us so fast now. I don't think there's any way around that. Which is why I did what I did strategically. I'm very happy I did. And it feels like it was the right thing anyways. But okay, to be magnanimous. Um Yeah, go ahead and explain what you mean, Gabby, and I'll try to follow what you're doing. I'm new to Kick. I've been on Twitch for a while, a couple of years. But, so if that's what I'm talking, there might be some things in the works where I might have some resources and they're intended to be used. I think the future is going to come from synergizing, like having a grassroots engagement. And I know that just human nature, there's a thing about human nature that has got to be understood. And I don't even know if I should talk about it, but this is why I'm going to approach it the way that I'm going to approach it in the interest of complete transparency. And I want people to understand this, that this is not about a person. This is something that I have understood about so many people that, and it's an old saying. It's my most hated old saying. Familiarity breeds contempt. What does that mean? Familiarity. Let's look at what that word by the definition. Let's not play any games here. Here we have it. It's actually in the dictionary entirely. Excuse me. So,
familiarity breeds contempt.
proverb, extensive knowledge of or close association with someone or something leads to a loss of respect for them or it. And I'll translate this back to when I had the moment of realization, my first expression, and I was very proud of it. I felt like it was original. No idea is original. Understand that. Sometimes we have unique ways of phrasing it that help us to understand things, and that's the magic of Noam Chomsky. Listen to him talk, it's good for your soul. Anyways, I hate this saying. The idea close association with someone leads to a loss of respect for them. Why can't I have close people? I don't think this is a transcendent truth. I hate the concept, and I don't feel like I have it. I don't feel like I have it because for me in relationships, I've been in 3 long-term relationships that were 2+ years. And my personal inclination just gets warmer. Maybe that'll change at like 5 or 10 or something. Maybe I've never really got all that familiar with people, but through promotions, I actually got familiar with people at a different level than most even get ever access to. You're never in a social position where you get the perspectives authentically shared with you. You can bounce them off the people around there and clarify aspects of it, right? That's a different perspective. You start piling many perspectives at once. You put someone like me in that creative space for like fucking 8 years. It was great. It was wonderful. We're not done. We're not done, really. And you got to stick with me because the payoff can come this way. The thing is that the payoff, that is the only payoff, quite intentionally engineered, the only exit is synergy, is coming together, communicating, working out ways to actually synergize grassroots in a movement with industry, with and on the topic of, in a humanitarian sense, let's satisfy Maslow's hierarchy of needs for the entire community in perpetuity. There you go. People act like without consequences something crazy is going to happen, but I think that in sport and play, in my experience, is absolutely a testimony to this. Because I have learned consequences of poor behavior from smaller dramas. I made missteps when I was in my 20s, early 20s. I intentionally made missteps, took advantage of a deeper awareness, and won situations that maybe I shouldn't have even won things that I just threw away anyways. My point is, because of these ideas, ruminate on the proverb. It's a proverb, guys, okay? Like, don't beat me up like I'm the source of a proverb. But if you can't place it in life, maybe there's whole arenas that you just don't think that you need to experience, that where the proverbs make sense, but these are still ancient, real human spaces. Society becoming more than a morass of chaos requires specialization. We are very specialized in roles in a big way, um, and embrace it. But how much should I signal familiarity then if I'm going to be the boss? If I've got to impose logic where people don't even have calculus, they're not going to understand why, ever. With a track record of success, their feelings will change. The goldfish struggle to get out of the bowl. Good thing I called it. Because I did call it. Called everything about it. And without fighting it directly, there really is no gentler way to have gotten it done. And it had to be done. So it's, as I saw on a guy's shirt, pay me for my experience, not my time. The brand of being me has kited many people for long periods of time. For those of you who don't know. This is the sword of doom. When we, if I had a community, I'd be like, let's watch this. Because it never charges, it's safe to say that it's never the instigator. This. I didn't know you were still here. I wasn't sure what. Oh, Gunter. This is a Bushido Blues does like commentaries on samurai flicks, and the Fascination of Evil presents the Sword of Doom, whose protagonist is a deadly swordsman, and he actually like kills everything around him in it. But they say he's evil, and they say that he has an evil sword. And he in that video, it's about 12 minutes long. You can watch it sometime. But the topic is this idea that it's it has even for me it's an archetypal sort of thing. It's for me it's a great piece of art because it forces me to uh, ponder. The samurai, he ends up killing his sister, and he pretty much goes mad with the power, which is a it's why it's so portentous. It's a warning when you relish causing harm. It's how evil power itself like corrupts. Like the after a certain point, when you're a level of a in that movie, then the final fight, he fights like 100 samurais or 100 guys with swords, I guess, and maybe not samurais. He just kills everybody, and um, but as he does it, he's got this like twisted, mad grin on his face, and that's why it's a weird study. It's just the samurai flicks, I think, talk about the nature of struggle and game theory in a much more authentic um, level. Uh, and they're classic dynamics. Technology that the weapons just jump out of your hands now doesn't mean that the real dynamics, the interpersonal dynamics, aren't relevant. And humanizing humans is a good idea in general. It's one thing that we've got to figure out how to do top to bottom right now. Everybody who's a human being, we got to figure out how to bring them on board and start stabilizing the global system somehow. Stop destroying everything, right? I mean, there's no reason for us to be messing everything up. But anyways, the in the conversation, Gunter is I don't need to talk about that anymore, I guess. Welcome. Good to meet you. We'll see if anything ever even follows up on it. Maybe it's nothing. But this is I think that things are nothing for obvious reasons, and but the idea of inverting your strategy and creating, especially if people can't alter their strategy, if people broadcast their strategy, right? Like you're not strategic if you tell people your strategy. I can talk about mine because there's never an attack. But if I was ever to make a move, I would broadcast my move, right? And that's really bad idea in politics. Get it? So that's why this willingness to speak to like the public, especially about things that might relate to interpersonal dynamics in communities, this has got to be the norm now. And we don't want to be doing this out on the internet. I don't think anybody should be doing that, but we're going to have AIs very shortly that are going to they'll be able to detect any sort of difference. They'll pick it out of your voice. The tonality of your voice will tell them a lot. If they've got a Fitbit on you, they can watch your heart rate spike, every sensor, every camera on you, and whatever it can sort out all at once. It's a new world emerging right now. And that is what calls for a different engagement in general. The AIs will be more ruthless than the Sword of Doom. There will not be a shred of humanity. They won't do it for a feeling of pleasure. They will do it relentlessly, though. They will never slow down. They will never sleep. So the idea of the toxicity of these like optimized strategies is really that Sword of Doom thing is just so relevant on so many levels to the moment we're in. Any thoughts? I'm gonna do the. I'm gonna pull my Cosmic Tarot out. Let's see what it says. But if you're into if you're into like action flicks, you know, I grew up with my dad watching World War II flicks and cowboy flicks, and so I enjoy myself, you know, that sort of stuff. But then I saw samurai when I was in college. Um, some guys I don't talk to anymore. Mostly, there's some that were I do, but film buffs, and someone let us borrow a Criterion Collection DVD set of Kurosawa that had Yojimbo and Sanjuro. Awesome movies. I love them. You might want to check that out before you come after me. Understand what it is I think is fun. Because it is a real time managing of things, and the energies will peak sometimes months after I'm gone. That all depends on the complex energy of the socialization. Really, it's complex energy. It's like a inductor. An inductor is so long; it's a long coil, and when you drop the voltage, inductor maintains the current. Like there's like a sluggish reduction in the current just because it creates such a long chain, and the chain has its own inertia because it's a long, long chain. So the socialization, in spite of when people communicate, if you look at it systemically, socialization can, of course, develop way beyond where it goes while the people are there. But how much can you really blame a person who isn't there for what develops as they're gone, or what developed when they weren't even present? And that's the problem. Nobody differentiates between these things. They collectively decide who they want to blame, and once they have decided it, they then adapt their story, settle it, and move on. Problem is, sometimes it's travesty of justice, and that travesty of justice, to try to correct it, unraveling it, would be very difficult. No more difficult than any other circuit, though. You can just, it's very easy to break this stuff open. That's why there never is any real official action. But yeah, I have continued to work the angles on it. I've had to speak my own mind with it, and maybe they have continued to follow after me, feebly clutching their pearls, like a bunch of suburban housewives. Oh my God, did you see what he said? Oh, now my worldview is shattered again. Point is, any sort of projection from a distance over art, if we're going to let people just present whatever they want in response to the other people's art, even, you can't do that. We can't have artists. There's no such thing as art then. Like I say, it's a bunch of self-harm that there's an established narrative somebody has established based on their own personal credit that this is how the karma is going to flow. This is how they're going to accept it to flow. But it's really just a threat of violence, isn't it? It's really just a criminal, violent gang, isn't it? And yeah, they do bad things. They're still not half as cold as me. I almost got in. Oh my God. It's incredible. These children. Few adults came around. I didn't even have to talk to them, but I intentionally avoided them. Why would I want to alert the more capable resources? People who were already experienced. Because I got all my experience really fast. I got lots of free experience because the party was in my venue and in my apartment 8 hours a day when I was 20 years old. And I do it for the right reasons. It makes me pretty relentless. But if you let them make up their own narrative, it's gonna be all sorts of woe is me and stress and nonsense. It's really a misapplication of psychotherapy and an outright travesty of justice. Travesty of justice. But it's all right, you know. I'm the sword of doom. Doom, da-doom, doom, doom. But this is just a message to humble that we don't have energy. Coming together should be as gentle as possible. Well, let's see what the Cosmic Tarot says. But yeah, if you watch Kung Fu Hustle, the ending, that's the ideal. Come in that fast, stop in an instant. And I can do that on myself. I definitely can do it. I've had to do it so many times already. I let go of things fast, really. But 10 years of terrorism, I got some questions. I'm sure they were extremely frustrated at many points. And I'm grateful things didn't get any more out of hand than they did. Because there's nothing gained in conflict. Just when we have to stop the train, you gotta stop pushing the train forward. Even if it doesn't make sense to you. If we're going in the wrong direction, we gotta stop the fucking train before we can go the other direction. So this is not a regular tarot deck, you may notice. This is two partial decks. There's about 4 cards, I think. There's only one of. And that's partially because I had used this to build up. What's amazing is it still works. It's the best part about this thing. I don't know. Synchronicity. It's why it's called Cosmic Tarot. This is how I talk for a while, and then I do a reading and see how the reading flows into the talk. If I'm about to be holding resources and investing them, this is here for those people to understand that all begins with communication. And if you don't even bother to communicate you don't get to pretend like you're involved with anything but a gang. And when you're so toxic, like totally sold out to grubby losers, convincing young people that it's okay and normal. Bring your complaints. Bring your A game. I think anybody from my past expects that would end well for them. Because if they did, they would already have shown up. People don't almost do something. Things don't almost happen. Don't buy that bullshit. Fucking held that shit in stasis with my magic and outplayed it. Showed him a trick. Showed him a little bit of magic. Alright, guys. So, I set some cards aside. 5 cards. Fell out. Because when cards fall out, you're supposed to do this. And I'll end the reading. We'll see where they go after the Celtic Cross. So the Celtic Cross will be read from my perspective. That is, this way will be down. Towards me is down for the cards. And for the crossing, it's facing this way down. Down side of the card. There'll be a cross. The first card is gives you a general idea of the situation, so I'm going to focus on begin it. Second card is the hurdle. The third card goes above. That's the highest that you can arrive at, or the what you should aim as an approach to the problem. The fourth card is below it. That's what you have to work with. It's the foundation of the situation. And you have the past and the future. Future is in like near future. The 4 cards at the side, there is the card that represents yourself, the card which represents your surroundings. The third card up on the stack is hopes and fears, and the 4th card is the final outcome of the reading. You repeat the process going through it a little bit, and even as I do that, I've got a sideboard now. And I will, if I have questions as the conversation flows, we'll pull cards to respond to those questions. Here we go. Show that. So, 7 of Wands reversed. Perplexity, embarrassments, anxiety. So if I'm going to be reintroducing myself to a community, there's actually always anxiety on my part. They often have adopted a perspective about my activities, that they want to use as a way of understanding my intentions and character. When people are demonized, once I have been demonized by an audience, their willingness to attempt rug pulls, to various sorts of abuse. Different people have different levels of willingness to do nasty actions. I do have a lot of experience pushing the envelope. I'm really good at it because I'm a trained fighter, and when people are right in front of me, I can pretty effectively read how ready they are to fight. Because when someone's getting ready to fight, their body's going to be warmed up, right, and it's going to be different. They're going to be agitated. Very few people are so disconnected they can like be right next to you and then suddenly attack you. So with that, as this conversation I'm having, right? This is really an expression of leading into hopefully that harmonious convergence. The anxiety is something built up over a decade, in my case, in this old situation. Just making sure there's no chat there. So that's like a 13-year situation, and 13 years where I haven't been told much of what's going on. They want to pretend like there has been all sorts of trouble, but it's really just crabs in a bucket. And leadership's going to have to address that. Is what I would say. Anyway, let's see where this goes. The opposition is the evil side of wealth, bad intelligence, also great riches. The evil side of wealth, right? What is the evil side of wealth? Because if I don't, I feel I want this coming together to happen. Okay? Because I don't want, and here, this anxiety is about the bad side of wealth. Easier for a camel to crawl through the hole of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Awesome. Highest that I can arrive at, the Nine of Wands. Yeah, guys, I think this is telling me to keep going the way I've been going. The card signifies strength in opposition. If attacked, he will meet the onslaught boldly. With this main significance, there are all its possible adjuncts, including delay, suspension, adjournment. Yeah, so, the highest that I can arrive at to address this situation of this 12-year-old thing into my base community even, and this is also true for the recent ones, is this sort of guarded, okay, there's nobody wants to invest in it, we can let it sit and chill. And I'm waiting for attacks. Because I've been abused while it's happening, and on the journey to getting even resources, but I also have this real concern about the bad side of wealth, because if I dive in and I suddenly, everyone keeps telling me to just like relax, it's responsibility. It's ultimately what it is. And the all sorts of things change around, well, you guys, everything does. And I watched it happen over $50,000 a year with kids that called me dad. For years. Kids that lived in my fucking house. But I shouldn't have let him pay as much rent as he did. He volunteered it. Honestly, I'd intended to give him stuff back. I was impressed with what he was paying. And it just didn't end well. Oh well. Anyways, keep moving. What I have to work with, the Page of Pentacles. Application, study, scholarship, reflection. Another reading says news, messages, and the bringer thereof. Also rule, management. So what I have to work with in this situation, okay, if I'm going to maximize the resources that I get, people are going to impose all sorts of their as I just described, weak perspectives on my life. I kicked free so I don't have to deal with any of that. You have no idea how much of a blessing it is to not have to talk to these people. So, anyways, management. It's a grassroots thing. If you're going to play along, it's not a matter of opening up another art collective. It's not a matter of another venue or a business. It's not a business, you guys. It's a behavior. It's fostering a cultural response. So I'm gonna protect it. I mean, I have responsibility with the opportunity to manage it effectively. Don't cast your pearls to swine. Okay? And these are not any more swine than what they have chosen to let themselves do. And even if their body bears the marks of stress, there's no reason to let your spirit get old. There's no reason to stop continuing this, process of cutting out your overhead, securing your life, of pursuing a sort of excellence. And you do that, once you have certain set security, life is different, you guys. But yeah, to manage it effectively, coming from death, which is ending closure, which maybe Easter was death. If it finally, I'm not going to have end mortality, destruction, corruption. There's always just been something. And to me, I put it all under this fabricated story that people use to try to pretend like I hadn't given them a clear ultimatum long before they tried to do any of their games. They actually thought they were trying business. They thought this was their path to success. Just had to let it play out, okay? They're still human beings. They still deserve a fair shot. Because nobody, wherever I have been at, in any downtown, that's the one thing that has been confirmed over and over again. And I said it makes me feel good, but it also, I like it because it means my community is a regular community. But that was the people I grew up with, where I cut my teeth. That's where I was so vested in other people's lives before I learned how to be a promoter, how to stay above it. And why I had to stay above it. Because once I had real power, you cannot be driven by adolescent feelings anymore. You can't exercise real power through those adolescent expressions. And this is what meditations is about. The Marcus Aurelius. This is the whole concept of why a philosopher king is necessary, or why a philosopher royalty community is necessary. So, if it is done, 3 of Cups. I think that's great happiness and feasting. Oh. Expedition, dispatch, achievement, end. So the going from corruption, mortality to next is achievement. So, okay, maybe we go on the journey together. We actually make this happen. And the thing is, I'm not going to play games at all. We're writing the numbers. We're doing engineered algorithmic projects. Human beings plug in. They fucking do their role. And we prove out a model which translates money into salvation for the burgeoning amount of people in need. Same as it has always been. And I need people that, if I don't have any sort of engagement to any proactive engagement from the crowd, and I get significant resources, I will be more clear in my announcements. I will ask for engagement, like on the government. I don't want my favoritism to disturb this. Even my friends, I want to be held to a market level. So whatever your plan is, I'll check it out. I'll start investing in plans. Plans will be civically focused. Things like my food days, growing things, producing things, cutting out overhead, simplifying lives, engaging your neighbors. Create the model where you're at. Maybe you get the situation going with 10 people in the locality and I relocate there. But even if I quote unquote relocate, I'm a maintenance guy. I'm a shock troop. When I do my job well, I don't have anything to do. Then I cover up a larger territory to get more done faster. We want to avoid any investment losing control. That's why they grow slowly. They get founded on a real, present local exchange. That local exchange becomes an inertia, it becomes the inductor of the system. And even if the voltage is cut off, the force which causes things to keep moving, and we're in a moment of confusion, and everybody's looking around, you'll be subconsciously on that fire line, not just supplying yourself food, but bumping into your neighbor and bumping into your neighbor. And you'll be looking otherwhere. This will all be so normal and natural, and you'll be a part of that harmony. That is the end goal, and you got to be in that village. And I hope you have that. I hope you didn't have that and put it towards some nasty end, like trying to compete with me, because that was just silly. It's that desire to compete that makes it such a heavy burden. And that's why after a short amount of times they got such incredible frustration. Oh, it was me, it was me. No, it was the lack of me. It was the lack of a man. A man. There was not a single man present to say, don't freak out, bitches. It's not so bad. Nothing happened. Anyways, for me, the future, renewal, that which will come to pass presently. That's nice, cool, all right. And that's a good one. I like the other one's good too, but the vertical reading is very cool here. If anybody wants to check that out. 5 swords though, for the surrounding environment. Degradation, destruction, reversal, infamy, dishonor, loss. And this is the surrounding environment around me, so it could be that, and this, me as well as everybody. Degradation, infamy, dishonor, loss. It feels like a loss, okay? The people who staked their ego on competing with me, it will always feel like a loss. It's just a really hard thing for them to make up words to argue that they won when their life is falling apart. You can't do that over time. Especially not when you're competing with someone who can go into a willful limbo for like 12 years. I want to be here, but at the same time, I'm here because this is the smart move. Keeping the vibe so that when we do actually have resources and a chance in hell, we're not just feeding off children, gassing them up. destroying their fucking lives. It's all on camera. I don't even want to imagine what you guys have been up to. Like, I'm the toxic one. The fuck? It's, I think it's absurd. Um, it is where people left the narrative, and so absurd that it's hardly ever justified the beginning of a response. I'm not gonna, in sloppy settings to sloppy people of low character, I'm not gonna like try to field my legal defense. If there's charges, then we go to a court. The rest of it is just gossip from herds of losers. Not to be cruel, but you gotta own that shit. Stop doing it. Hopes and fears, mediocrity, and working otherwise. Yes. Puerility, pettiness, weakness. Huge fear that there is, in the project, in this management, there is pettiness. There is weakness. This stuff is toxic. Passive aggressive. I mean, it really is a shame when a community just holds on to it. But if you haven't found a way to express it and your life like actually technically sucks, we're gonna struggle to see each other eye to eye. You better not lose fucking sight of who I am, what I've done, and how I'm not gonna take your shit at all. Six of Pentacles. Presence, gifts, gratification. Another counts as attention, vigilance. Now is the accepted time. Present prosperity. Yeah, maybe things are about to get really good. And as it is there, targeted investments. But I'm not, believe me, if I'm suddenly given a huge task like that, I'm not going to go out looking for friends. I'm going to look at who's been there. The rest can run to catch up if they want to catch up. But the idea that I would owe them anything is, it's quite the opposite. And I think that any time that I would have ever been brought to an official accounting, I would have easily justified the idea that I was just the greater artist. I was the philosopher as well. I was the engineer as well. I was the businessman as well. I was the humanitarian as well. Nobody could have done it any gentler than what I did. We're not done yet. Let's pull this shit together. Right? Because the best outcome that you get to be a part of is exactly what I said in 2009. Notice that. Okay? These are waves, trends of reality, which I am actually smart enough to understand. And I understood the time would come. I only thought it was going to be a couple of years. But it was like 12. I can only imagine the messes that these lamers made trying to blame on me. And if there's not a single man present, that bullshit might float for how long after I'm gone? Like it's all my fault. Some people say they try, and I hate it. Because I don't say that often, but in the interest of transparency, I really tried to do it in a respectful way. to the younger me. I tried for years with my community that I cared about. And I pushed it until I gave up. And when I gave up, I said, you got to come with me or I'm kicking free. Sucks. Super unnatural, you guys. Whole situation was stress all around. See how the community imagines they experienced more stress from one person leaving than one person did from all of them leaving at once. It's all in how you think about the system. I did it for a purpose. I did it because I had to stay free and because I would have just been dragged through all that bullshit. We would have found something else fruitless, something else nonsense to blame. But because I kept chatter up, they were able to keep blaming me. They thought they understood the whole thing. I know. And they thought every time as they circle jerked and in depression, oh, he just doesn't understand. One day Jim will understand. You shouldn't say my name, whatever, fuck it. One day Pan will understand. It's like, motherfucker, I authored this shit. Because it had to be done. Because you treat me with disrespect after years of service. There's no way that service is going to buy respect from them. I did it for a decade on the ground level. I did have a crazy time, 20 to 21. But after that, I got on top of myself. 23, by 23, I'd resolved. After I closed it, that slowed it down a lot. And 22 to 23, I thought about life, put myself back together. Prepared me perfectly for what I went through in Africa. And I had to go through all that by myself. You think that you have any idea what stress is when I had to spend years wondering if the world was ever going to go the way that I was projecting, while at the same time dealing with crippling anxiety. Whole community just piling on top of it. People who are going to try to act like we were friends. Just piling on top of me. Trying to hold me down. The whole community is just confused because they couldn't hold me down. But they weren't listening to me. What I saw was real, and we are now facing it. So I've spent 12 years of my adult life in a limbo. Grateful to those who had patience for me, and I've pissed off a lot of people. And yes, I know there are people who will talk just as I do, sometimes suggesting that they would be willing to do violence. But there are people who have not done violence and people who did not do violence. So what does that mean? Just a cultural expression, just speech. That's all it is. It's an emotional thing to feel strong, true anxiety. And yes, the people who are scumsuckers would sit there and continue trying to bleed it, acting as though this is causing them harm, but they're manufacturing the relationship entirely. And it's actually the people who are handling this exchange that are, as they just parasite off of what is their superior, what is their root of life. When they give nothing back, eventually that gets cut, and then they have nothing. It's going to happen to a lot of people for a lot of reasons. Not necessarily me. System is breaking down. People are getting laid off. Cash flow is changing. Banks are fucking closing, guys. This is real time, and we should have a robust supply chain. You're failing your kids. You're failures of adults. You fucked up. You fucked around for a decade like complete assholes. When the guy who sponsored your dumbass for a decade was screaming the whole time that you should do something. Also telling you that you're not smart enough to do anything and you gotta just follow my lead for a bit. Dream it up. Dream it up. Reach out to me. Tell me what your community could use and how it's going to help you out. Talk to me. Micro investments to start. And it's about getting a real community of people connected with enough commonality to empower. And we start coordinating to cut out overhead. So we make sure that kids are skilled. Kids are going to learn how to cook. They're going to learn how to clean. They're going to learn how to build. I'm going to help you do that. That's my art. And if I finally get material and this art finally gets to land, if even the cosmos are saying, please forgive my standoffishness and know that I welcome all complaints. The complaint is logged because we don't like Donald Trump around here. We don't like people with slap suits. We don't like scummy liars around here. Okay? Kids deserve better. We got cards left. Wow, guys. Holy cow. Okay. The future for those who come along will be the first card. The future for those who don't come along. With this whole thrust, not just the cosmic tarot, the conversation beforehand. Who comes along? Who doesn't come along? Whatsoever arises out of the idea of judgment and all its connections, power, command, authority, militant intelligence, law, offices of the crown, and so forth. This is the people who choose to come along. In a true grassroots, let me, in case you can't see that, the King of Swords. In a true grassroots action, we all are kings, swords. You are it executes through you, but you play along in good faith. You come along. If you don't come along, a hanged man. Wisdom, trials, circumspection, discernment, sacrifice, intuition, divination, prophecy. Wisdom, not to come along. Okay. Circumspection is like looking around. So those who don't come get to witness. They get to hang out, and it's going to still be We're going to stream. I intend to keep streaming daily and drumming up this engagement. Not like Mr. Beast. This is fundamentally different. Okay, Mr. Beast, take note, dude. This is how you should be doing it. This is what we got to do. Everybody should be doing this. Yeah. Even my nature, I wish it would have said something like death, right? No, it's a wisdom for you not to come. That's right. And I've said this many times. It's a wisdom for you not to come. It's a wisdom for you to deny me. If you are not abso-fucking-lutely sure, if you are not King of Swords material, be the hanged man. Be wise. Get to witness, and you'll get to see as we broadcast the reality of this, where we don't threaten each other. This is a perfect representation of this. And see this way, right? Of course, to me. Come with me. We create the structure. Whoever doesn't come witnesses. Okay, are we going to arrive? So final arrival for those who come and those who don't come after effort. Oh no, that's not a great one. Contrarieties, difficulties, intrigues, and their analogies. There will be difficulties. Even finally, there will be difficulties. How are these difficulties resolved? And if you want to see, so turn this way so you get the same perspective. 10 of Wands. Now I have the Chariot reversed. Riot, quarrel, dispute, litigation, defeat. Maybe we won't actually fix everything. Maybe they need to stay separate. Okay. How does this work if they just never come back together? The end of troubles, suspension or end of adversity, disappointment, and toil. That's what I get. I get to stay away, according to the tarot. And otherwise, trying to mix them together, contrarieties that lead to defeat. Pettiness and blindness. 3 of Pentacles reversed there for fears. So we have to create this separation between those who are going to be executing the project. And I'm not going to pick my friends for this. You're wise not to come along. This is demanding. This is arduous. You should be driven to prove a fucking point. You should have willpower, or don't come along. Don't fucking waste my time. If we can make that King of Swords team, that's what I intend to be on. I'll work with whatever I got. If no one engages it, I will go begin building somewhere. I don't know where. I will make that call once I have resources for it. But no, the idea of rejoining, it's not going to ever be like what it was, you guys. I'm still going to party. There's still going to be our party. Just as there has been this party uninterrupted. Which I'm going to get back to. Fuck you guys. Wow, you guys. Oh my god. This is why it's Cosmic Tarot. I did not know what these cards were. You want to notice something else? Not one card repeated. $15 cards out of like 150. It like drew 10% of the cards. Repeats do happen, and they've been interesting when they even happen. Reading I had before, what I had to work with was also the past. Why it is that I have to be a stickler and such a stick in the mud. Because the people who are trying to put this back together wish that it would just suddenly become harmony. But it should become harmony, but it's got to become harmony the right way. It's got to become harmony with a resulting understanding and dignity between everyone involved. And you don't throw your pearls to swine. They define themselves, and their past behaviors have defined themselves. Individuals, it doesn't matter which part of the role you played, okay? What did you do? And you know it yourself better than anybody else. And if you are gonna fuck up, I'm gonna catch you. Gonna throw your ass out, and you're gonna get to take a break because there's gonna be government cheese or something to take care of you guys. I hope there's gonna be some sort of UBI, okay? But this project, this art project, is here to manifest a human village that is literally not just invested in each other permanently, that works through fundamentally different methods, not an imposed fear, scarcity, ever. This shit blows my mind every time. And on the topic of getting attacked, the first tarot reading I ever had could have called for me to get attacked. Could have put death in front of me, or the chariot as what they had to work with. But it gave me all 4 fours, which that reader believed was the sign of a humanitarian. I literally was in a stranger's house who I had just met, who was going to moderate this, and it was a crackhead artist guy whose brain had been chewed up by his diseases and a lot of drug use, relentless drug use. He just reduced himself to actually basic urges. And so he had a very visceral, expressive, and he tried to express his aggression. He's just trying to get a rise out of me. I had a poker face to kill for. You know what I mean? Like my poker face alone is a weapon. And yeah, getting old. Ooh. Anyways, there was like 3, 4 guys there. I'm sitting in a chair with people behind me and shit, so it would have been easy to kill me. I don't think people realize quite how conscious I was of the danger I was in when I was in danger. Just when you have a life where even the tarot deck constantly makes your case for you, you start to get a faith in God and in yourself that allows you to just express yourself in such a free manner that you don't have repression and the chances of you fucking up diminish. Just give me something to fucking celebrate my life, and I'm gonna fucking love it. That's gonna be able to pull me around a little bit. Only so much. Only so much. End to adversity and trouble, you guys. I've been, of course, that's fucking. No, it's never been this conclusive. It's never been this conclusive. If you didn't notice, I was shocked, right? I was really unhappy to see the Ten of Wands and the Chariot there reversed. Those are bad. Saying telling me not to mix in. That's Plato's allegory of the cave. Literally Plato's allegory of the cave, you guys. Sorry, I'm too smart to be your friend anymore. No, I was always too smart. I was just much more patient, and I was learning. And that learning is what became a value for me. But then in 10 years of abuse, my whole understanding of love, I mean, their love is so absent, has been so incredibly absent in every way for so long. As I've gone through extremely difficult times, they've just made them worse, intentionally trying to break me down. The idea that after that experience, I even have a desire to put up with them at all. I wouldn't have a desire personally to address that. But we don't have to be friends. And legitimately, I'm a very severe individual. I'm an engineer. I'm a fucking gamer, grand strategist. I get a little comfortable just to keep from yelling at people, honestly. And they just are so sloppy. I look forward to getting out of this fucking limbo in my life, you guys. It can happen anytime. Anyways, I'm happy to stream again. God bless the world. Gunter, Gabby, cheers. Gabby, I thought about it, and no, I'm not trying to like negotiate follows and all that. Thank you though. I appreciate you. Gunter, check out the Samurai flicks. You want to talk more about Samurai flicks ever? I love that shit. It's fucking worthwhile. Kurosawa, man. Kurosawa! Although Sword of Doom is not Kurosawa. But I think it's a higher level. But like Seven Samurai, the ending of Seven Samurai, absolute legendary stuff. That's where the ending of Seven Samurai. And actually, before I close out, we'll do another Marcus Aurelius thing. This has been fucking blowing my mind. Meditations. Oh my god. I still use random chants here. So the Cosmic Tarot's mind-bending enough, okay? Meditations, Marcus Aurelius, translated by George Long. This is the Value Classic reprint. Provides a slim volume with full text at an affordable price. Anyways, yeah, do this thing. It's been a bizarre life, you guys. And I've been teased over and over again by beautiful women. It's been so rough. Oh. Everyone around me is like, why the fuck aren't you doing more to chase that? It's like, I can't chase. I told you I can't chase. Something I put to bed at 23. And I'm happy. I'm happy it's gone. And I'm happy I didn't end up with situations where women didn't want to hear what I had to say, but were very pretty and I was very attracted to them. They didn't want to hear what I had to say. I don't want to be in that. I don't want to be in that with any level of a community anymore. If you don't want to hear what I have to say, let's part, you know? So it is a total of 61 pages. So we got 0 through 6 on the first die. And then we got the following number. And if it doesn't make sense, we just do it again. First die is black. 25. And I read it for 1d10 paragraphs, starting from the top of the page which is rolled. 6. Okay. Getting blitzed before you read. Not a good idea, kids. Once you've got 20 years of bitterness piled up, or 10 years, we'll say, like just a lot of bitterness, if you're able to still even stay young enough at heart to giggle like a child. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, orating and speaking clearly. Water, wetting my whistle, wetting. Oh man. Okay. In conformity to the nature of the universe, every single thing is accomplished. For certainly it is not in conformity to any other nature that each thing is accomplished. Either a nature which externally comprehends this, or a nature which is comprehended within this nature, or a nature external and independent of this. I'll read that again for you guys. Myself. In conformity to the nature of the universe, every single thing is accomplished. For certainly it is not in conformity to any other nature that each thing is accomplished. So the nature of the universe. So then he references a nature which externally comprehends this, which is a thought about the reality. Or a nature which is comprehended within the nature. Like your being present gives you a perspective, but it's still just a subjective perspective. Or a nature external and independent. So external and having nothing to do with that evolution to gain the sense of an explanation. Everything in conformity to the nature of the universe. Okay, next paragraph. The universe is either a confusion and a mutual involution of things and a dispersion, or it is unity and order and providence, positive or negative. The first division is 0 and 1. If then it is the former, why do I desire to tarry in a fortuitous combination of things in such a disorder? So a fortuitous combination, like that's the point, is clarifying for the why would I desire to tarry, spend time? Why would I have a desire to spend time in a fortuitous, a beneficial, leading to a gain of fortune combination of things and such a disorder? Like you should even be in, when the universe is a confusion, and that's what our culture is right now, you should be in the confusion that I have demonstrated in my limbo, that I have allowed myself to be in without judgment of myself, while being judged by about everybody around me for it. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. And why do I care about anything else than how I shall at last become earth? Yeah, why am I disturbed for the dispersion of my elements? Will happen whatever I do. But if the other supposition is true, I venerate and I am firm and I trust in him who governs. If it's confusion and involution and dispersion, you daydream on the end of things, on your future, while giving up the present. Because the other supposition is true, I venerate and I am firm and I trust in him who governs. And that's really, for me, that's God. I trust in the universe. It took us right here. When thou hast been compelled by circumstances to be disturbed in a manner, quickly return to thyself and do not continue out of tune longer than the compulsion lasts. As I said, self-harm circle jerks. They adopt, they carry on for a long time because they imagine they're going to be able to make a case and claim damages. But not if the person just left after an ultimatum in 2009. For thou wilt have more mastery over the harmony by continually recurring to it. Spend your time in harmony, personal, interpersonal harmony. Obviously. If thou hadst a stepmother and a mother at the same time, thou wouldst be dutiful to thy stepmother, but still thou wouldst constantly return to thy mother. Let the court and philosophy now be to thee stepmother and mother. Return to philosophy frequently, and repose in her, through whom what thou meetest with in the court appears to thee tolerable, and thou appearest tolerable in the court. Repose in philosophy, because through philosophy, tolerance is learned. And it's that sophistry almost. And it's the exercise of power, that casual, galactic fucking consciousness of being in the continuum, remembering that, I've been in those humiliating situations too. I've had some amazing experiences and pulled some amazing things off. That's not to say that I've never had tragedies, right? You're gonna drop the ball sometimes. There's absolute tragedies on my name. And as you step away from that faith, right, this wealth is going to be the funnel is going to be through this resources that I get. It's finally going to give me the scale of a sudden influence and I can land with a big splash, but I don't want to rush to that. I mean, maybe it'll take me some time to really call that shot. The point is, I don't want to just, I got to get some fish on the hook. And I think that if I'm talking about investing a lot of money in the area, I can do that. If I address the art community directly through these streams, and address the whole world, whole fucking world. Guys, talk to me. I gotta respond to my Ecuadorian friend. That's right. Damn it, I saw the messages late at night. But let's change the world. It's an astral. It's an overhead conversation that we can maintain through formats like this, where we control everything about it. It's very easy for me to cut anybody who comes in here out. I mean, turn off the stream, do whatever, right? There's all sorts of options there. You have the same opportunity. But have you spent time discussing philosophy with intelligent fuckers? Have you spent time becoming good at chess? Have you spent time seeking lucid dreaming? These are all things that are deconstructing. They're how I just deconstructed my reality. However you manage to deconstruct it, God bless it. But once you manage to, you won't be taking part in self-victimizing circle jerks. Pretty straightforward, right? And you go back to philosophy, and when you look at it, you get clear sight. That's where it makes sense. That's where the idea of somebody being absent and making their art and it being such a problem for you, as you just self harm, the philosophy at any time would have clarified that, stopped the losses. Cannot spend years pretending we have a relationship when all you are is abusive. When all you've been for the whole time is just consumptive and abusive. I don't want any part of it. When we have meat before us and such eatables, we receive the impression that this is the dead body of a fish, and this is the dead body of a bird or of a pig, and again that this Falernian is only a little grape juice, and this purple robe some sheep's wool dyed with the blood of the shellfish. Such then are these impressions, and they reach the things themselves and penetrate them, so that we see that kind of things they are. And so we see what kind of things they are. Just in the same way ought we to act all through life. And where there are things which appear most worthy of our approbation, we ought to lay them bare, and look at their worthlessness, and strip them of all the words by which they are exalted. The fuck, you guys? This is my life. I love it. I just fucking love it. Why? Why there's going to be and they're wise, they're the wise ones. Go ahead, go away. You're wise. When we have meat before us and such eatables, we receive the impression that this is the dead body of a fish, and this is the dead body of a bird or of a pig. And again, that this Falernian is only a little grape juice, and this purple robe some sheep's wool dyed with the blood of a shellfish. Such then are these impressions, and they reach the things themselves and penetrate them, and so we see what kind of things they are. Just in the same way ought we to act all through life, and there are things which appear most worthy of our approbation. That's like demeaning. We ought to lay them bare, and look at their worthlessness, and strip them of all the words by which they are exalted. For outward show is a wonderful perverter of reason. And when thou art most sure that thou art employed about things worth thy pains, it is then that it cheats thee most. Consider then what Crates says of Xenocrates himself. I don't know what Crates says about Xenocrates himself. Last paragraph, though. Most of the things which the multitude admire are referred to objects of the most general kind. Those which are held together by cohesion or natural organization, such as stones, wood, fig trees, vines, olives. But those which are admired by men who are a little more reasonable and referred to the things which are held together by a living principle, as flocks, herds. Those which are admired by men who are still more instructed are the things which are held together by a rational soul, not, however, a universal soul, but rational so far as it is a soul skilled in some art or expert in some other way, or simply rational, so far as it possesses a number of slaves. But he who values rational soul, a soul universal and fitted for political life, regards nothing else except this, and above all things he keeps his soul in a condition and in an activity conformable to reason and social life, and he cooperates to this end with those who are of the same kind as himself. If I wasn't rolling dice and drawing cards to get things that so naturally circle the conversation, bring it right back to where it began. It's just incredible in my belief. You don't have to believe that. But I think AIs are going to be able to do the odds of this shit happening, and it's just going to be utterly astronomical, really breaking physical law, because it's blowing my fucking mind. It can't be physical chance. It's not random chance. There's some kind of incredible overarching coordination of collective interest of humanity, and we're coming to an inflection point where we're really going to change everything, and I'm excited to do that. It's going to take time for it to filter through everybody. Nothing is going to be instant, but if I get these resources, the eco village is fucking on. It's fucking on. So, and I'm going to live on it. I'm going to live on it. And people who want to live with my pain in the ass self, should not be prone to self-destructive circle jerks or pretending like they weren't carried all along. They just got carried away. Their britches were too big. Big, big britches. When you're like stuck in the calf of the pants, you can't see what's going on. You got somebody on top of you trying to put the britches on. Missed the gap, slid down the leg, right? I'm not sorry I did it so fucking incredibly well. and and I mean, God bless. Let's get this done, and then we're gonna get back and help you. Okay? Stay the fuck out of the way.